What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome to the Video Simplified podcast with me, your host, Diana Gladney. And this podcast is dedicated to you, you busy entrepreneur, helping you simplify and create better videos for your business and just really create a deeper connection with your audience using video. So if that's something up your alley, let's jump right into today's message. Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the Video Simplified podcast with me, your host, Diana Gladney. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about why should you use video content marketing. Now, there are a ton of different options out there. You have all kind of mediums of communication, from podcasts, blogs, websites, literally every kind of communication you can think of. Why video? And so it's not just like a why video, but why specifically video content marketing. Now, I've talked about this a little bit not even a little bit, a lot over the course of several different episodes. I'm just kind of, touching on different points. But today I really want to dig into the meat of, again, why video content marketing specifically. In a previous episode, I talked about just like how when you are present, when you are there, and I gave the grocery store example, like when I was a little kid, just even picking out cereal, like when you're there, you're top of mind, you're present, and you're providing value first, you're giving to them first, just how much content marketing can make so much of a difference comparative to other forms of marketing. A lot of stuff works, but it's just about, what's working to be deeper reaching, in a faster way of communicating and establishing a bond between you, your audience, and your ideal customers, clients, and consumers. So I wanted to touch on again, specifically the why behind it. And so I want to touch on a couple different things when we're talking about video. Now, if you're listening to this episode, then you may not see the video side of it, but that is available on Entree Women TV. But you can see me, okay? And if you looked at my face right now, you'd see that there's a little bit of a smile and smirk on my face. You may hear some elements of that through the audio version of this, but you don't see it. You also don't see the small hand gestures that I'm moving, just that I'm naturally doing, not as an example, but all of that. And so if you make similar hand examples, or if you, kind of smile and talk at the same time, sometimes like I do, or you see certain facial expressions or whatever, then you see that. Maybe you see something that you probably wish I wouldn't say, that you're going to see over and over and over again, is that I blink a lot. I don't know why that is, other than I just do. And so it's not to, find a disorder or something for a reason as to why. I just do. I don't know why. And I do that in real life, and I do that on video. And sometimes people point out, like, man, you blink a lot. It's just like, yeah, I do. Yeah, it's the thing. So you'll see different elements of that. You'll see me looking straight into the lens of the camera. So it looks like I'm looking you straight in the eye. And when you're watching the video, you're probably looking at me in the eye. All of these things I'm describing, you're not really seeing on, or you can't see it all on the audio version. Whereas I'm kind of chilling, sitting in my chair in my office. Whereas if I was sitting straight up and professional and, this, that, or whatever, versus just kind of a little bit more slouched and relaxed. You just saw the posture change. And so those are all things and elements that come by way of doing video that you would not see in an article, that you would not experience audio only version. And you can hear a smile more than you can hear, sometimes other things, like you can hear anger and all of that, but you aren't seeing it. And so you aren't seeing the frustration, the redness in the face or whatever, things that only can be expressed in nonverbal ways. So it's a ton of nonverbal communication forms that make video one of the most powerful forms of communication because of one singular thing. And that is because we are human. Very few animals will you see expressions in. You may think, well, a cat or a dog or whatever, especially like videos now, it's funny, or chimpanzees or different types of monkeys. You'll see certain things that they have more human-like qualities. And so we like that because it's more like us. When you think about video content marketing, you're getting a lot of those same things. And we've become so used to human interactions, so to speak, literally all the time on the phone, for customer service, or in the store, at the gas station, whatever. You're so used to human interactions that you're not paying attention to the ones that matter when it comes to making purchasing decisions, or the thought processes or methodologies that people will go through when they're learning something or deciding and making decisions on things, and how those still impact those decisions. And so when we think about it in a much more just smaller way, it makes a difference. Because you could read a blog post and hear some expressions. I could tell the same story. I could talk about some of the same things, but it's different when you see it. I talked about before on a different episode before, where I was saying how I would, I don't really want to use the word manipulate, because that's not right. I would just say I use logic and reasoning as to how I was able to get the cereal that I wanted as a kid. Right. And it wasn't about being spoiled or being like, I used logic and reasoning. It made sense to do those things. And so it makes sense to do video because of those same reasons that I expressed. But again, I talked about that because all of this non-forms of verbal communication, you are only going to get on video or in person. And the offshoot that for as many touch points that you can have in video and in an online space, you cannot do that one-to-one, person-to-person, and not pass out. You know, I was watching the movie, or not the movie, but it's the show, you will see it on Netflix, called The Queen, and it's the story of Queen Elizabeth II that's still on the throne today, and her husband. And when she was first taking up her position as queen, after her father passed, and she had to go on tour, and she's smiling and waving and doing the traditional thing, you know, like they would do. And it got to the point like her cheeks got messed up because she was smiling so much. She had to get injections just to kind of just relax the muscles in her cheeks, because it almost had become mannequin-like, and it just like, it was such a strain on her face to just sit and be smiling and waving and posing for pictures for nonstop. That is the kind of exertion and problems that like we otherwise wouldn't face. Like my muscles in my cheek and in my face are messed up because I'm smiling, having a fake smile and put on these airs for these appearances and stuff. Whereas I can do a 30-minute, 40-minute live stream, whatever it is, video, and talk about some of the same things and have so many different social interactions, like maybe in a live stream or whatever, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can only really get that kind of stuff in person, but you can't even duplicate that in person. You get those one-to-one experiences and in groups and stuff like that, but you cannot get the personalization, the one-to-one feeling, just like I'm looking you in the eye right now on camera, looking it straight into the lens, whereas you're only listening to me. And podcasts for sure have such a higher rate of I want to say personal real estate, so to speak, because you're listening to me. You're putting me in a very intimate space, which is really close in your ears, and you're listening to my voice, or you're listening in the car, or, you know what I'm saying, you're listening as you're exercising, or whatever it is that you're doing, or cutting the grass, or snowing right now, depending on, or shoveling the snow, depending on where you're at. But, you know what I'm saying, like I'm one-to-one with you. It's just me and you. And it's the same thing with video, with all of these other elements heightened in there. So those are some of the non-verbal forms and the things that's kind of like happening on a one-to-one person kind of a thing. Like I said, as humans, it's touching into that human element. And sometimes I think we look so far into those things, we miss how important it is to show and experience those same human elements on video. And so I want to talk about a couple statistics that really make the difference. And so I was looking at some different statistics in preparation for this episode. And I was just looking at from an internal perspective as far as running your company, as well as on an external perspective, because that's usually the place that I speak from, developing an audience and a brand and a business around using video and video content marketing as a strategy or as the way and form of communication and communicating your message. So, but there's some stuff out there, and I'm not going to touch on this too much because I think this singular statistic from an internal perspective of what you're doing with your company, your brand and business, and who you're working with, as far as the people on your team, makes everything else not as important. And so I was looking at a recent statistic and study that showed, and this is a 2019 statistic, it says 98% of respondents state that video conferencing helps with relationship building inside and outside of the company. So literally, in a huge study, it is showing, so let's, even if we just take away however many people it was that, to produce the study, let's just say like 1,000 people. That's usually like the average of what most is. So of 1,000 people, 98% of them are saying that video conferencing helped with relationship building, not only inside, but outside of the company. If that does not hit home with driving and building a company and corporate structure and just like a community within your team, I don't know what else to say. You know what I'm saying? Like 98% of people are saying just in video conferencing internally helps with relationship building. A lot of times, I even noticed this in the nonprofit space, people waste a ton of time wanting to have physical one-to-one meetings or want to eat and have meetings, and just like it's too much. It's too much. Or a phone conference, it's too much. You don't need to do all that. Because you know why? I'm sitting in my home office making podcast videos and having meetings with clients and meeting with other teams and other, just like doing stuff. Even talked to my best friend last night. Video, FaceTime, right? So that helps. Like we talk and we text, very different when we FaceTime. I could talk and text to a client, email, very different when we, when we hop on a Zoom chat or something like that. So again, from an internal perspective, like if you're having problems in your company and, meshing and getting people to gel well, sometimes like you can, as best as you can, try to word something in an email or in a text message or whatever, and that person is reading it very differently than how you wrote it. And so that's the whole thing. Like when I remember when email became widely accessible, which honestly makes me sound old. Because, I'm not going to go there. All right. I'm not going to go there. But it makes me sound old, like the AOL CDs. I can't remember who I was talking to about that. But it's just like, early internet. Like with a phone cord internet. You know what I'm saying? Like this insane now. But anyway, but I remember in those early days when Yahoo and Ymail and all the things, it was only for real a few, SBCglobal.net, AO at AOL, all these different companies. It was only a couple for real, a handful, where you get an email. And so when Gmail came out, or Google Mail came out, it was just huge thing. But an etiquette started to be developed and a culture started to be developed, because all caps typing gave off the appearance when somebody read it, and nobody could have expected what to expect on the internet and social communications at the time, that all caps talking just like on accident made it seem like you were screaming at the person. And so instantly the tonality of this email or this message made it seem like you're yelling. And most of the time it came from people forgetting to take the caps lock off. And so, again, that stuff still happens, not so much so at the caps lock, but there are things that happen just in the wording and even the frustrations or the spirit that somebody is reading the thing. No matter how you type it, they're hearing it differently and reading it and receiving it differently. Whereas with video, you can clearly see all of the facial expressions. You can hear the tonality in my voice, and you can get an experience of like seeing me and seeing the smiles and seeing all the things. And you know what I'm saying? Like you see all of this stuff, whereas it may sound one way, but when you look at my face, I have like this little smirk on my face, partially smiling. That gives a difference in your receiving the information, if you're watching the video side of this podcast, than if I was just frustrated. And it sounds like like when I change my facial expression, you get a different reading off of that, right? So those vibes, those feelings, the social interactions, those things still happen through video. So that's, like I said, if you're trying to develop something internally, highly consider video conferencing. So like I said, if that one statistic don't get you, I don't know what it is. Now let's look to and move to some of the statistics that come back of or let's just say on the internal side of things. So outside of your company, let's look at when you're building and developing a customer and client and an audience base. So 78% of people in these statistics came from HubSpot and Civia. This is another company, but this one came from HubSpot, saying 78% of people watch online videos every week and 55% view online videos every single day. Over half of the people are viewing videos every single day. I promise you. My percentage is on that 55% of watching video every single day. I have had a pattern of what I do, watch, listen to, like everybody talk about their morning routine. Mine absolutely is on consuming content. I have certain podcasts that I listen to, have certain shows that I'm listening to, have certain YouTube channels that I'm checking on all the time. I come to expect a certain thing in video form. So it's like 78% of people are watching online videos every week and 55% view online videos every single day. Another statistic says that viewers retain 95% of a message when they watch it in a video compared to 10% when reading it in text. That we can stop the podcast right there. Right there. But if that doesn't convince you, 72% of customers would rather learn about a product or a service by way of video than any other medium. So when it comes to the why video and why video content marketing, if these 3 bullet points don't get you, nothing else will. They're already saying a majority of people are watching videos every week and over half every single day. Almost everybody. 95% of people, when they're looking at a message, they prefer it in a video form and they retain it more. 95%, they retaining it. Like, you can't get people to pay attention to nothing these days. But 95% of people, not 95% of people, but people retain 95% of a message compared to just 10% of text message. And you wonder why you didn't get a reply. They didn't retain it. Even earlier today, I'm so guilty of this. I didn't even think of this. I took a break in between recording these episodes and checked a text message from my friend, and she sent it in audio form because with iMessage you can send like audio form or whatever. And so I'm listening to it, and then I got sidetracked, and I'm like, wait, what am I responding to? And I listened to it again, and I'm like, okay, I got the first part. And I listened to it again. It's just like a 1 minute and 25 second message. Like, and it's not that I'm like so scatterbrained or whatever. It's just like, I'm like, reply to what now? And so, whereas, you know what I'm saying? Again, if it's a video, something that she sends me or whatever, then it's just like, okay. Or if it's a FaceTime message, it's like, okay. And then it's at different times, just like, you know what? It just makes sense to send this via video. Let's just do it that way. If most people are retaining information 95%, you want them to watch the video of your products. Or why do you think products like Squatty Potty, Poopery, or anything else, Purple Mattress Company, any of those Harmon Brother products and stuff like that, why do you think, other than just to do a cool ad, why do you think they're doing the videos that way? And that touches into a whole other thing with how successful those are when you couple that with other traditional styles of marketing like they're doing when it comes to copywriting and all of that. You're seeing a visual representation of literally some of the best copywriting in video form for a product. And it works. That's why you know those names. If nothing else, you know, like Purple Mattress. Right? So when we think about that, you have to understand, like when for example, when I first started searching for content online, there is a company called Ask Jeeves, right? And so you go to askjeeves.com, it could be, and then it became ask.com. And so you would go there, ASK, let me enunciate, ask.com. And, but before then, like I said, it was Ask Jeeves. So I remember my process, and I always look at the human psychology of things coupled and married with the marketing side of things. Because if you can understand the human elements that also go into it, it makes the marketing stuff work that much better. And so when I look at my own experience, even when just searching for content marketing in general, and how I came to just like become 1,000% sold on video, and I'm sure a lot of you guys' experience could be the same. You look at, like say you go to Ask Jeeves and you're searching for stuff, and it was amazing to get a written response. And then it went to where after reading certain personal development books and buying audiobooks became like the thing. But I'm like, Dag, I don't want just a book solely. Like, I want a ton of information on this. And I don't want to have to buy a bunch of books to get an audio version of hashtag all the things around this topic. Like, I want to know more. I want it in audio form, but I don't want all this stuff. So my Google searches, well, it wasn't Google at that time. Like I said, it was Ask Jeeves that led me. Well, actually, it was Google by that time, but you went from Ask Jeeves to whether you're using Bing for whatever reason. I don't know who uses Bing, but it's like, let's say Google search. And so that led me into finding articles and stuff like that. And the stuff was great, but I got to stop and I got to read. I can't keep doing everything else that I want to do. And get my other stuff work done, but I could in audio. And I'm like, yeah, I'm crushing these books. Is there something else like that in audio form that isn't quite a book, but still gives me a lot of details and we can have conversations around that? And then I discovered by clicking on some links and stuff like that, podcast was a thing. And I'm like, are these free? Like, I was floored, baffled that, it was a such thing as podcast, because nobody I ever knew was talking about it. They didn't say, like as much as maybe you hear podcasts now. And there's some people that still have no idea what it is, but maybe they at least heard of it. But they like, I had no idea what a podcast was. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This stuff is free and it's everywhere, and we can just dive into personal development topics. So like this whole entire podcast is about video marketing. If you know what I'm saying? Like if you're somebody like me and you're just like, obviously because I make it, but it's like if you're somebody like me that's like sold out on video, then it's just like, I want to know more. I want to have conversations. I want to be in the know. I want to talk about it. Just like I love cameras, and I'm just like, this is amazing. And so came podcast. And so it was one, again, on personal development. It's just like every week or something, I'm just like, oh man. And I'm going, it's a library of content. I could just keep digging into this, and it's free. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a book on one singular concept or a couple different things. Like, it is like a ton of stuff just hitting on all cylinders. And I'm like, I love this. I could listen in a car. I could listen when I'm at work. I'm gonna listen when I'm on lunch or break, or when I'm going for a walk. Like, it was amazing. And then my searches started to develop, and I'm like, okay, they're talking about this. Is there a way to see how to do this? And lo and behold, YouTube. Have been watching vlogs, early version of vlogs. People weren't even calling them vlogs yet, but they just kind of like it's called their video blog. And so, because most of them had a blog and they just started doing the videos and stuff like that, early days of YouTube. And so I'm watching YouTube, not realizing I'm watching YouTube. And I'm watching early versions, like searching. I remember I was still living at home with my parents after moving back to St. Louis. And I was looking, I was like, I want an office, and I want to know how to design one, or how should I put one together? How is this going to work? And so in doing that, I came across this one girl's vlog, and it was just like a little Canon PowerShot camera, again, like old school vlog format and stuff like that. But she had like an intro and all this stuff. I didn't know anything about video. I didn't have a thought about doing video myself. But her showing her experience, going and trying to set up her own, I'm like, yeah, I want an L-shaped desk. I got an L-shaped desk right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I want lights and stuff like that, and I want this. I still never actually bought the kind of light that I wanted. It was too expensive at the time. So it's like, it's probably cheaper now. I should probably look back into it. But I was like, I want this. I want bookshelves. Like, I want all the things. And like, I was having an experience while she's having an experience. And that superseded everything else, that any other content that I could find, because not only could I have conversations and, relay back, like, yeah, like, isn't this nice? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, isn't this nice? If I could look, say, oh, isn't that nice how you got the pink thing going on back there? Right? So you can be like, yeah, it actually is nice. Oh, yeah, it is pretty cool. Or no, I don't really like it. It invokes an emotional response from you. Whereas if you're just listening to the audio version of the podcast, then you don't even know what I'm talking about. But when you can see it and you can have an experience, it's just like, yeah, that is really nice. I actually like, oh, where did you get that? And da-da-da-da-da. And, oh, I saw you got some Storm action figures over there. They're blurry right now. But it's like, it's like, because the background is, I blurred the background. But it's like, oh, yeah, how you doing? Common interest points. You can't get that in the audio version unless I talk about them. And then I have to take away from the content to talk about them, whereas you're paying attention to things now in the video and you're still listening. And so I was sharing an experience while she was vlogging, trying to decide and looking at the prices. And I'm looking online too. And I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't do it. Or what's here in St. Louis? Yeah, we don't have an IKEA. At the time we didn't. It's like, yeah, we don't have an IKEA. It's like, I wonder what store. I'm like, oh, let me go. You know what I'm saying? That started to go. And so I have my own experience based off their experience. And it was no, her format was just kind of like sharing her life. So it was no something that she was doing or buying or whatever. And I watched that girl's vlogs for a long time. I remember that was before you had subscribe buttons and all of that. You literally had to save the RSS feed and the RSS feed capture. And so I had one of those on the computer. And so every week and every day I'd go in and I'd check to see if she had a new episode in addition to other stuff that I was watching. And so I was like, RSS feed, once I learned about, that's how I could keep up with stuff. And I was just like, and RSS feeds became my thing. It was my jam. Every time I found something, I'm like, is there an RSS feed for that so I can keep up with it? And like I said, there was no subscribe button. So I literally, or I had to remember the channel name and then like search, and YouTube was not. I think they said it was Daryl Eve said YouTube started as a dating platform. It was a dating web. So it wasn't even what it is now, nothing near close to it. So all the stuff like, the like button, share, subscribe, like this stuff didn't exist. You had maybe very early forms of some stuff, but it wasn't like, hey, share to Facebook. This stuff didn't, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't what it is. Social media wasn't a thing like that. It was not what it is now. But now that it is, and now that, Facebook is what it is, YouTube is what it is, and social media has become what it's become, now it's time to elevate that. And I believe video content marketing is one of the strongest forms of communication that you can do that for your business or otherwise. And like I said, you can check back for some of those statistics, but if 95% of people are retaining information, not 95%, but if a good majority of people are retaining information, 95% of that information, because it's via video, it would be because of all of those different factors playing in at the same time. Things that are happening that you can't even really keep track of, that because we are human, those things are important and we're paying attention to. And it's just like a lot of boxes can be checked in a short amount of time, faster than anything else. And again, if you lead with the value first, them first mentality, you'll reach far greater than any other than anybody else. Honestly, you reach far greater and far deeper than anybody else, any competitor or anything else that's not doing that, because it's the same as spending time with someone. So that's what I'm gonna leave it for today's episode. So I hope that you enjoyed that. It gives you some insight into like a viewer perspective and a consumer's perspective, but not just that, but like internally for your companies and stuff like that as well. And hopefully, again, like those statistics, like really, really listen to that, replay that part if you need to, but it's like, let that really take hold, because that stuff is powerful. And if you can learn to leverage the power of video, you can absolutely change your life. I know, because I'm speaking from experience. So with that, my friends, live with passion. I will see you in the next video podcast of the Video Simplified podcast. Take care. Thanks for checking out today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the content that you heard. And if you did, make sure you leave a rating or review in your favorite podcast player. And I do read and check all of those, so it'd be greatly appreciated. But more than that, leave a message. Go to anchor.fm/Diana Gladney and let me know your thoughts. If you want it published, we can do that. If not, I'll listen to it and just hold it close and near and dear to my heart. But otherwise, guys, make sure you subscribe to Entre Women TV if you want more video tips and things like such as. But otherwise, guys, I will see you on the next episode on the Video Simplified podcast. Take care, and as always, live with passion.